Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Zeke, the director of MGS, and I've got with me another one of our students, Rob Peck. Thanks for hopping on here with me, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Rob Peck. I attended Modern Gun School, had an absolutely wonderful experience. Graduated several months ago, since then have set up a part-time business called Freedom Forge Gunsmithing. So far, I do it part-time, and I've had a really good experience.
That's awesome. What made you come around to MGS in your process of looking for a place?
I had spoken to a couple people who attended MGS. When I was sort of debating, I spoke to the gunsmith at the range that I went to, who's ex-military, and he had done MGS, a couple other people locally. And I travel a bunch with work, with my full-time job, so it just made sense to do something I could do on my time when I was sitting in a hotel room when I had the opportunity. So it just seemed like a really good place to start.
Nice. It's one of those things with our school that a lot of people initially are like, how do you take that distance education? How do you do that correspondence? And when I start to explain to them, hey, look, this is something you can do anywhere, and we send the projects to you, you do them, you send them back to us, we grade them, people start to grasp, oh, this is conceptually valid. Because one of the things when I got into this whole world in this space, I had read where Harvard was teaching medical classes online. And I'm like, if they can teach medicine online, then we can teach gunsmithing online. We can't, I'm not going to teach you how to work a lathe because there's a huge liability there. You know, I get a call from somebody's wife. Yeah, my husband had long hair and it got caught up in the lathe and it ripped his scalp off. Yeah, we don't want that liability. But we can teach all the good concepts and stuff. One of the ways we do that is through the hands-on projects. Did you do advanced or basic, or one or two?
I did the advanced. I didn't do the one where you did the build, only because I already had a lot of the equipment that I was going to get.
Gotcha.
And I had done an AR build on my own before, and it just didn't make sense to get a whole bunch of extra equipment. And it didn't seem to make sense for me. So
Sure.
I did the one with the 7 projects. I absolutely loved them. That was the working on those things was the highlight. Matter of fact, the gun stock, I turned it in, got it back, and I've stripped it and tried different things on it a few different times. So
Yeah, a lot of people ask, they're like, I really enjoyed doing this gun stock. Can I keep it? And we sell it back to them for
Sure,
really
right.
cheap rate. I mean,
Yep.
to get a M1 Grand stock for what we sell it back to you for is pretty awesome.
It was great.
But out of all, and I'm kind of guessing what your favorite was, but what was your favorite project you did, and what was your least favorite?
I think my favorite was the gun stock.
That's kinda what I was
did
guessing. I saw you
did
light up as you
enjoy
say
that.
it.
Yeah, I did really enjoy that, and I do a lot of stock refinishing and stock repairs now, so it really did help. I think the most challenging one was the soldering project, and I wouldn't say that I disliked it. It just it took me a while to sort of figure out the right way to tackle that. And I watched the videos that you guys did a bunch of different times, and
You saw my annoying face popping up explaining it.
yeah, right. But that was, I think that was that wasn't one that necessarily took the longest, but I think for me it was the most challenging.
Yeah, it's one that I've asked a lot of people that have complained about it, because that's our most complained about thing in the school, is that soldering project. And what I've gotten it narrowed down to is a lot of us of our age range. I'm 50. I'm not gonna make you say how old you are. But,
I'm older than you.
In that 40 to 65 age range, when we were growing up, we had to learn how to solder wires on motherboards. That was just kind of
Right.
like the introduction to computers. Nowadays, kids don't even know what a motherboard is, but they use them every day.
Right.
And that's really easy. You just kind of heat up the solder, you drop a little drop on there, and it's fixed.
Yeah.
And they assume it's going to be like that, and it's not. You're taking 2 pieces of metal and you're, for lack of a better term, kind of welding them using solder. And once people start to do it, oh, this isn't working, this isn't doing it right, this is, we're getting complaints like, well, did Did you clean it right? Are the angles correct? Did you use flux? Did you not use flux? You know, there's all these different aspects
Yeah.
that go into soldering two pieces of metal together. But once people get it, and once people that do it, they're like, I hated it, but I'm really excited that I know how to do it now.
Yeah. No, it was, my issue was more of a setup. I didn't have enough air underneath the bottom, and once I got that figured out, then it went pretty quickly, and then the filing part of that, I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. So that was fun.
So I've got two takeaway questions. You know, there's things you take out of every course you take. Out of our advanced course that you took, what's the biggest takeaway for you as this is going to benefit me in the firearms industry as a whole? And then the second one is, what was your biggest takeaway for you that you were kind of like, wow, I didn't know that. I'm going to be able to utilize that a lot in my gunsmithing career. So industry, vague, big picture, and gunsmithing specific.
So I think on the first one, just the fact that there are so many variations of firearms, but for the most part, the mechanics are pretty similar. So, you know, you don't learn about, there's just no way you could teach us about every single firearm. But you learn about the mechanics and the processes, and once you understand those, it translates to almost every other thing out there. And then, you know, you would get, guys provided us a lot of tools, but there's lots of other tools online that you can pull, you know, blow up diagrams for, you know, firearms that we didn't get, and that's all out there. It's all out there to use. So it's just been a huge help. Setting the foundation up and giving me the confidence to say, you know what, I could do this. I could do this. And, you know, when I got into it, it was more of, you know, a retirement thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've always loved to tinker, and I love to tinker with the guns that I have. And so, you know, I was shocked that once I felt comfortable enough to do it, then just throw out my shingle and people come. People come to people who they feel like they can trust, that feel like they have knowledge, and it's been real positive.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I try to convey, and people who have seen these interviews with other students and stuff that I've done for MGS and interviews other places, I try to get this across every single time. Everyone wants to know, is gunsmithing a viable career? And I tell them, I live in a major metropolitan area of Tennessee, and within 200 miles of me, I can count on one hand who I'd trust with my guns. Mm-hmm. And most of those guys are booked out 2 or 3 years. So it is something like you just said, Rob, when you hang that shingle and you start your own business, people just start showing up. Yeah, because they're looking for someone good and reliable to you know, maintain their firearms. And a lot of people, that's the other thing. When you're talking to gun industry people, they don't grasp it as much because they all tinker and they all do their own stuff and they work and they customize. But outside of us, outside of our industry, the majority of gun owners, especially hunters who buy these big $15,000 rifles, they don't even clean their own guns. They use it for hunting season, and then they're looking for a gunsmith to pay them, you know, $50 to $100 to clean their rifle after hunting season. So there is a lot of opportunity for gunsmiths in this world. So
I have a customer that brings me 4 guns a week. He's got more guns than he knows what to do with, and he doesn't want to clean them. He brings me 4 every single week, and then we swap out. And so, you know, it's just been a really good experience. I've been open for a month and a half. And you know, I always have 4 guns in the shop.
Yeah. So in your month and a half, what's been your coolest or craziest, or the story that you're like, oh wow, I'm gonna be telling this the rest of my life? You know, what's something that's really cool I've
got 2. I got a Kimber 89 big game rifle in 270.
Oh wow.
That was beautiful, but it came to me broken in half at the wrist, and I mean broken. And not only that, there were 3 cracks inside the inletting. So I studied on it. I figured out my plan of attack. I pinned the internal cracks. Then I tackled the break in half. put threaded rod in, put a couple wooden dowels in where I couldn't get threaded rod in, and it is in my safe, back together, waiting to be stripped. And then obviously it dropped because there's some scratching on the barrel, and I'm going to rust blue it when I'm done. That was the coolest. The next one would be this sort of low end AR pistol that somebody brought me, that the guy bought it at an auction or at a gun show, and he can only get one round through it, and then he has to bang the buttstock to get it out of the chamber. It's as rough as it could be. The charging handle drags through the whole thing, and the bolt won't recycle. So I started working on it. I stoned it a little bit, and it's a whole lot smoother. But it's I mean, you could just see what a poor production, quality control, pieces of plastic on the inside, pieces of Cerakoting hanging off on the inside in the way. No. So you can just there is just such a huge difference in quality between manufacturers. I think it's almost shocking. So anyway, I'm working on that. I got to get it to the range. I think I've got it working now. So it at least ejected my go gauge, because it wouldn't eject my go gauge the first time. So.
And that's the perfect example of, what gunsmiths can do, but also in the manufacturing world in our industry. Rob took something that was not functioning correctly because of poor manufacturing practices. We're not going to name brands or anything like that, but there's lots of companies that do that. And if a gunsmith gets a hold of it and can get it working, that means it was possible for them to get it working from the jump. But they just don't have any quality control. They don't care. They're raking in the money for selling cheap parts and everything else, when just a few extra steps that may add another $20, $30 to the rifle could have fixed the issue from the jump. So 100%. That's a disappointing thing when you see companies that are just like mass produce. Who cares about quality control? Especially when, let's face it, we work on tools that are designed to kill. And when you have something that's designed to kill, especially in a defensive situation that has no quality control, that's a major liability. Major. If I spend $1,000 on a rifle, I expect that thing to work. If I go out there and get one shot and I needed more, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. Well, Rob, I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any other words of encouragement for somebody that may be looking at different courses and schools to take? What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I certainly would highly recommend Modern Gun School. I mean, it looks daunting. There's lots of reading, but I'm a visual learner too. So what I did when I was going through it and going through some of the lessons, learning about some of these firearms, I found a gunsmith online showing me how to disassemble it and reassemble it, and I watched it alongside with the lesson, and it just helps even more. So there's nice. The literature is great. The books are great. And it was great for someone who travels too, because what I ended up doing was I printed off each lesson, even though I had it in a binder, so I could clip it and didn't have to take it all with me. I could take the lessons that I was going to use while I was gone. And made it fit, my work-life balance situation. And I just got so excited and so into it. I probably did 2 hours every night. I was up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, just because it was almost like reading a good book. I couldn't put it down. I was just so enthralled, and even though that I'm done and I'm still enthralled with it. I can't get enough. So it's just been a wonderful experience, and the communication was great. Even though it's online, if I had a question, I got an immediate answer. The people were so friendly and nice to work with that I couldn't recommend it more highly.
That's awesome. And for those of you watching, if you're interested in getting more information, just go to mgs.edu, request more info. There's a tab for that. You just click it, fill out your information. One of our admissions reps will call you. Wow, I learned how to talk. And then if you are a veteran, or active duty. We do have VA and GI benefits. We are VA and GI Bill approved. He can walk you through that whole process. And if you get on the website, you just love it, you're ready to enroll, you can click enroll now and do it right there on the spot. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you, Rob, for coming on and doing this quick little interview. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and we will see you guys next time. See ya.